on the calendar, bro.
You're a talent. You're a talent, bro. So I really want people to. And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, Phil? How you doing, man?
I'm doing fucking good.
I
Feel
love it. I
great.
love it, ladies and gentlemen. We are live with Phil Moya. He's a comedian out in LA. This guy is doing big things, man. I ran across him by chance because I saw he does comedy. I saw a couple of things he posted on social media. Then I noticed he was from North Bergen, so I definitely started. I went down the Phil Moya rabbit hole, and then I reached out to him because I thought he was absolutely hilarious. I think he's got a very unique personality, and when people find his stuff and they start to go down his rabbit hole, they're gonna see what I see. This is the guy that he's in the right place, man. He's in LA. His type of personality, his type of ability to talk on any topic and be interesting, which is the hard part, because a lot of people are funny, but not a lot of people are interesting. And he has the capacity to do that. So what he can do is, I have a very strong inclination to say that he's going to be whatever he wants to be out there in LA. Whatever level he wants to get at, he's going to get there. All he has to do is get the asses in the seats, get the audience, and get the people in front of him. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Philip Moya Jr. What's going on, brother?
Thank you, buddy.
How you doing, man?
Life is good. It's LA is just coming back. Like, I just am now looking at my neighbors in the eyes. So I'm going to be in small theaters again soon. I'm going to be doing this shit again soon. Bro, it was a fucking rough 2020, and I was just doing what I wanted to do right before this shit hit. I kind of caught my stride like October 2019, and I was just at a point in my life where I was doing a show a week, and a real show with fucking patrons who maybe paid a ticket or bought wings, like I say, not a mic. And so shit was getting good. I didn't have, because when you start, you have like one set. You have one joke that you wear out 11 different ways. I had different sets. And then comedy is like fucking doing magic. Like, you can't skip a beat and the shit gets cold. So what's going to be interesting in the industry now is that there are people who are nice with it because they're doing it every fucking night and they could stitch a million ideas together because it's on repetition. And then there are people who are just truly talented, who don't need the practice, who are just good on stage and are mentally fluid. And this kind of reset, I think, the whole industry. So people are going to get a chance because people who have been in the game for a while, maybe doing the same act on the road for who knows how long, they're now going to be on the same level. Everyone's kind of cold. So we'll see what that's going to be like. But it's an interesting time for comedy, bro.
It's breaking up a little bit here. Hold on a second. Just breaking up a little bit again. Once I told you, man, I'm having this issue with Xfinity, so we'll send them to hell tomorrow.
We'll get that Xfinity guy and make him disappear, dude. Absolutely.
You got it, bro. So, yeah, man. No, I hear what you're saying. That's why I kind of wanted you to come and I reached out because I said to myself, I really want to get what they're going through out there. You know what I mean? When you're in that type of field where you got to actually stand in front of a crowd and you need that, you need that practice. You know what I'm saying? If you don't do it, what is it? If you don't use it, you lose it. You kind of have to have that feeling. And from what I've talked to a lot of people, they're always telling me how that immediate laughter, that immediate reciprocation of when you spit out something, it gives you that thrill. So I'm like, how do they keep their tools sharp? The
Zoom comedy show did nothing to help comics. The Zoom comedy show allowed people to showcase people who could rant, people who could just go on a tangent for minutes on end, and where they don't wait for laughter, where they're just comfortable in their mindset. And they do it. Those people can shine. And it sucks too, because you're not miking your audience. You got maybe 8 comics in a lineup. Those are the only people you are listening to. And you hear goodwill. You know what real laughter sounds like, and you know what goodwill sounds like. So that it let people rant, but otherwise, if you are like someone who likes to take breaks, you like to hit a punchline, take a break, let the audience laugh. That shit does not exist. You need to be in a room. There is no Wi-Fi in the world to match like a live comedy experience. There is no, that 5G, 7G is never going to happen.
So this is 5 questions with Drop Dimes and Phil Moya, right? So when I designed these questions, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to kind of get into the mind of a comic, get behind the scenes and kind of get your thought process on a couple of things. But we're going to start light, so I've always wanted, did you know this as a young kid? Did you know that you had comedy in you? Did you see things from a different lens?
Absolutely not.
As a young boy?
Absolutely fucking not, bro. I I had fucking like hillbilly Cuban immigrant parents who were tried to be relatively conservative, who I mean I was insecure about everything I said. I was always able to be a clown and be funny. I had a brother 1 year younger. We got into mischief. I could be goofy, but as far as in public, as far as sharing anything, I was always afraid of what I said. I don't think it till I was fucking 17, 18 did I not get like an ounce of confidence. So because I watch biopics and podcasting and documentaries on comics, and they always love to say that this one Christmas I was 7 and I did this and I knew I was funny. I'm like, that's fucking out of your mind. When I see a child that's confident, I'm almost fucking jealous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But let me ask you a question. What about your mindset? Like, did you, okay, maybe you didn't verbalize it and maybe you weren't funny outward, but in your mind, did you always know like you saw things differently? Like you saw them from a different lens? Or
Yeah, but I thought I
something
was
you developed
flawed.
over time? You thought
It
you were
was
flawed.
I
mean, that sounds like
felt,
a very
yeah. I felt like I remember really young, I did feel like I had a dark sense of humor, but I thought it was like something was wrong with me. I thought I have to watch my mouth if it's someone new. I don't want to scare someone off. I always liked dark comedy, and but again, my early years, bro, I was afraid to be myself. I was an insecure kid, and it was tough. I had a brother 1 year younger, so you feel when you have I don't give a fuck when you're little. 1 year apart it feels like a parent. So then I felt like now I had to be a role model for this kid, and I didn't even have confidence in myself. So definitely not, bro. I did feel like I was off and a little twisted, but not in anything that was not special. I was like, I'm gonna grow up. I might figure this out. It really took a while for me to even feel funny, because that is a sentiment. I mean, I think comedians get to a point in their lives where they're like, I feel confident. I don't give a fuck where you come from. I can like make you laugh.
right.
You
No,
know?
no. I can hear that. Wow, that's nice. That's a I always thought, like you said, they kind of knew from an early age. You found your voice as you got older and you kind of found your needs. That's cool, man. What do you call it?
Definitely.
Was there a moment or a person that inspired you to get into comedy? Is this like a moment in time, something that you saw maybe on TV or
Yeah.
a particular comedian or even a family member that inspired you that said, yo, you know what? I could do this.
Bro, the first time I saw stand-up comedy, it wasn't it didn't feel like a thing people could do. It felt like I was looking at Prince. Like you saw that shit and you're like, that's
Oh,
some unearthly shit. That is not something anyone I know or will be close to that has that capability. And it was Chris Rock of Bring the Pain, right?
oh,
Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah, man.
My pops put me onto that one. And then I was young. I was maybe 10, 11, right? And then I get to almost high school. I'm like 7th, 8th grade. And then I see George Lopez on a thing I think is called Latin Kings of Comedy. And he is this dude who looked as old as my father. I had an older pops. So when I was like 12, my pops was 64.
Oh,
And
okay. Wow.
he
Yeah.
looked as old as my father, but this fucker was sillier than kids younger than me. He was goofy. And I'm like, yo, when you see that, it gives you permission to do dumb shit. It gives you freedom. That's the thing about comedy. People say comedy it might make you feel good. It might be, I'm like, no, it gives you, I think, creative license to be goofy and silly, and even in your own life. It like gives people sometimes like the permission they need to explore, the dark or silly corners of their brain or whatever. And so again, maybe I was 12 or 13 then. Now I get to high school and it was 4 guys and I learned about them all at once. And I think this is when the comedy bubble started. And you got Dane Cook, you got Bill Burr, you got Patrice O'Neill, and you got Louis C.K. You got 4 Boston guys. And again, we grew up in the same place in North Jersey where if there's comedy, it's hardly comedy. If anything, it's more bully comedy. It's roasting. It's mean.
Roasting. Yeah.
And these fuckers are mean because Boston has got one of the most aggressive, comedy scenes in the world. They'll boo and throw fried pickles at, like it's bad. So they did something I aligned with. And then Dane Cook, especially because Dane Cook was for the men and he was for the women, and he was out of his mind silly. I remember being in high school and I heard a story about Dane Cook before he got famous, how he did a show and he impersonated a fucking like Tyrannosaurus Rex and started walking on the tables in the fucking club. And I'm like, how are you fucking born like that, bro? Some people are like that special that they don't need to see someone do the thing that they, that worked for them. And then I watched them, and it's not that it humanized it. It just made there was a bubble going on, and it felt a little more human. It felt like, oh, this is a career for some people. This isn't just a Prince and a Michael Jackson and a fucking Lady Gaga over there doing it. These are like every city's got a handful of them. And so now I finished high school. It's toward the end of college, and this fucking silly little app comes out called Vine. Vine, if you remember, a string of 6-second videos, and with there's something funny about 6 seconds that allows you to like measure your content and come up with 3 beats and a punchline quick, the way like Twitter helps writers with, stay under this many characters,
right?
Whatever, because you hear me, I'm winded. I fucking am all over the place, and I think part of it for me is because I wasn't doing comedy forever. I don't like the feeling that, oh, this idea feels written. This idea feels like I'm working on it. So sometimes I speak so fucking fast because I'm like, I want to prove to you that this is an original thought and it just fucking came out. Like, I think that's why that happens. But I saw Vine and I liked Vine. I started playing around with Vine and I saw 2 comedians on Vine. I didn't know were comics. And one was Chris D'Elia. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yes, I do.
He's still on fucking Cancel Island. I hope we wish him the best. And then another guy named Brent Morin, who was a friend of his. And I saw they were pals and they were doing silly shit. I never knew they were comics. And then right, maybe, bro, 2 or 3 months before I finished college, I saw the Comedy Store in LA, like on Instagram. And I saw that it was like the most famous, comedy club in the world. And that Robin Williams or fucking Richard Pryor, or you name it, the Jim Carrey, they all were made in these clubs. And I'm like, this fucker who's just doing silly videos in a stairwell in his apartment, these are real comics. So that's real comics, and then I heard that, and this was months before I graduated college, and I was like, and I knew I needed a fucking change. I knew I was never gonna do anything much different if I'm still in the house that smells like my mother's cooking from when I was 4, in the same house that I got fucking paliza. Like, I'm like, I really needed to separate myself. No, I swear to God, I understand when people say like they go to LA to find themselves. I didn't need to find myself. I just needed to get away from the Phil that was. And I was kind of a spoiled kid. I fucking had to teach myself how to do laundry. I had to teach myself how to like cook because my mom did too much, that it was a detriment almost to my upbringing. And so I go to visit LA. My boy Ricky Rosario, who actually he just directed a short 2 years ago called Abuela's Luck. It's on HBO Go now, and he's actually the one friend I have that reminds me the most of you. He's a Dominican dude. He grew up in Union City. Ricky Rosario, Abuela's Luck, and he was the first guy to move to LA from our area, Hudson County. He did it on his own. Drove his fucking Nissan Altima that, God forbid, that shit broke down because it was some old Burgundy. And he made it, and he fucking got a line producer job, and he figured it out. I went to LA on my own to just check it out. I was like, I gotta see what I might be missing if I don't. And I met up with Rick, and we went to bars, we went to clubs. I saw it was a melting pot. I saw Latino, Black, white people. I was like, this is New York City, except people got backyards and shit. And then we went to the Comedy Store, was our last stop, and I saw Chris D'Elia, like I had seen on Vine. I saw Brent Morin, and I even saw Sebastian Maniscalco before he ever did a special. I chased him down in the parking lot because I thought he was from Jersey because I didn't hear that Italian swagoo. I didn't know that existed in Chicago. I thought it was like New York and Jersey. Yeah. I chased him in the lot. I'm like, where are you from? He's like, Chicago. I'm like, all right, cool. I said hi. He was a sweetie. And
that was a pretty good impersonation there.
Hardly. Chicago. He's a sweetheart, that dude, bro. And then Chris, I got a quick dap on Chris, and Brent Morin I did talk to for a little bit. And it humanized and demystified the idea of stand-up. And we were in the original room at the Comedy Store. It's the smallest room, and they say it's haunted and it's got all this crazy history, but they say it's the hardest comedy room there is. Just the way it's laid out, the way the ceiling is, the way noise moves through the room. And bro, and I sat second or third row, and I'm like, I could see these fuckers' pores. Like, it really made it real. And I'm like, if I just put in work, exactly. And again, the idea came to me so late in life that I wasn't a huge dreamer. I was just like, yo, if I can even open for these guys. If I could even get a shitty hosting, like if I could do any, that's a dream already. I never had that vast, like one of my friends, Sasha Mercy, she's a Dominican comedian. She's huge on Instagram and she's a dreamer. This girl has real big goals. She even has a cousin, Judy Reyes. She's the Latina from Scrubs. So I guess maybe because in her family, you've got a success story in entertainment. Judy's out living in the fucking Hollywood Hills somewhere. Who knows? So, maybe she had that tool to kind of help, make it real.
Yeah, you got to understand, you're making the move. You're making the move strictly on your own. You don't have that example. You know what I mean? Whenever I talk relationships, I always talk about that. I don't have that example of marriage. So it's like I could envision what you're talking about when it comes to like a dream, like comedy, where you're like, I don't have those people around me. So when you get into that environment, all of a sudden, not only do you have those people there in front of you where they're real, but these people are monsters and they're doing it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. And it kind of helps you say, okay, I'm going to broaden my vision a little bit. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, based on what I see, I watch all the podcasts, all the comedians from LA, all those guys. I'm a big fan. Let me tell you something. I could say it right here, right now. On Dropping Dimes, Phil, you got what it takes. You're there with them. You have that aura when you're flowing. When you're flowing, like you said, when you're freestyling, and you're at your best. When I see you with the wig on and your grandma and you're going in, you are freaking hilarious, bro. Thank you, bro. And we're gonna drop a link at the bottom of this to make sure that people have access to your work. But go ahead, you know what? Even better, a little follow-up question, only because you're kind of on the level of what I'm talking about here. Mm-hmm. So you've had to transition, right, from live comedy. And I've always been told that has a special feel to it. All right. And you kind of transitioned into podcasting. Give me one of the main differences that you get from live comedy to podcasting. What do you see as the biggest difference? And what do you like about each of them that they offer?
One thing, and I've talked to enough comics that I think this is kind of a mutual sentiment, is the shit that you think is fire, right? The idea you put on the paper amongst 4 other ideas, right? And you're going to do it at a show, and you position them in a certain way because this one is going to murder. It's never the fucking one you think is going to murder. It's never the one that you thought was flawless or the guarantee that hits hard. So that's why you need all these different rooms and all these different people and perspectives. Every time I do a show, I'm like, this is the one that's going to kill. I almost think I can time the laughter. I'm like, I might even need to chill for a pause break and get some popcorn because you think it's going to be so epic and it's not. It'd be the shit you spit out accidentally or the tag you invent on the spot sometimes. And because they can smell it on you. They can smell that you may have just come up with something. They can smell that magic. It's like when you sometimes 2 comics will get on stage together and just clown around and they know that it's not prepared.
That natural chemistry, yeah.
And people, they explode because you can't prepare for this. This shit is just timing. So that's the thing about podcasting is like, I guess you got to trust that you have taste for what's good, but you never will until you put it in front of an audience. But it does help you stitch together thoughts for a longer period of time. So if I go on a tangent, I'm in a fucking room. I'm talking into these sound panels in my wall, so I can go as long as I want. And if I fuck up or I say some nasty shit, I could cut it up or whatever. But it's that practice to go on these long tangents, and that they call it writing on stage. A lot of comics say, "Oh, I write on stage." When I first heard that shit, I'm like, "Are you fucking schizophrenic?" But no, it's true, bro. You go over a topic and you got that, you're hot and you got that fucking, that feeling. And maybe you already know how good that next bit or that next tag is going to do. So you just experiment. And when you succeed doing that shit, bro, there's fucking nothing like that. So
tell me about that rush. Tell me about that rush when you're killing it on stage.
You know what? The killing, you don't enjoy killing I think until you're done. But when you're bombing, you feel it yesterday. It's an out of body experience, bro.
Bombing. Wow. Tell us more about that.
I never had I don't think I've even done enough to warrant this statement, but I haven't had a bad bombing yet, which means they're coming, which means they're just there around the corner. That's all it means. That means I played it safe and I didn't wild out and I didn't do stuff outside of my, spectrum.
Comfort zone,
but I remember the big room I did at the Ice House. well, I did that twice, but the first time I did it, and I had my girlfriend there, and she was the only one I brought, because I'm like, if I'm gonna have such a big room, I don't want the goodwill of my friends. I
Right. You want to get a
strangers.
real true measuring stick of where you were at.
Yep.
I get
And it's
it,
in
yeah.
Pasadena. I hadn't even been to Pasadena yet. So I'm like, let me just try this complete fucking alien city in this club I've never been to. And not that I bombed, but jokes that I thought were gonna fucking ehlap did not. They did not. And then I realized, oh, I think I've been writing jokes for like woke ass, writing centric LA, and Pasadena is more of a blue collar
City. Yeah.
So it's like you go from New York City, and then you think you're gonna go down to fucking Franklin Lakes. These ain't the same people.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense, man.
Culturally, and this was a 20-minute drive. So even culturally, 20 minutes apart, there's a fucking huge difference. So yeah, comedy is like an algorithm you need to carry with you. You can't have one 10-minute set. You literally need to have several different sets.
Be able to adapt. You got to be like a chameleon, right? You got to be able to adapt to your audience, kind of like. I get it. Wow, man, that makes
it's really a nightmare until you like succeed a few times, and it's like when you start working out. The first day you're in the gym, you're like, I'm ashamed to even touch any of this equipment because I know I might look dumb using it. And then you see a few, and then you stare down a few people, and then you do the same motions, and then you get on the internet, and then 3 weeks later you're fucking home. So it's just feeling.
So where do you go to draw inspiration? I know you do a lot of off the cuff stuff, but like. Where do you get your material from? Is there anything, any particular place that you kind of, or is it just unlimited?
Luckily, I had such a not fucked up, but a weird childhood that I could draw from stuff growing up. But I'm going to tell you right now, bro, the stuff you don't want to, I've been in a relationship with my girl for almost 10 years now. And I met her 5 years before we started. So I met the girl I'm with now when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we've had breakups in between. I've had a feeling of, I know what it's like to be single as an adult, so I know what I'm doing here. But the stuff you don't want to do with your girl sometimes, bro, the regular botanical gardens. Let's get a fucking puppy. Let's go to TJ Maxx. Let's go to Trader Joe. The stuff you think is just it's
everyday stuff.
You need human everyday activities, and things just fucking happen. It's like just living with my girl. That was like 40 minutes of material. I'm about to get her pregnant because I hear a baby is like another 40 minutes of material. Whatever you live, the more stagnant your life is, the less you're going to have to draw from. You literally are just going to have TV and internet.
Right.
Or your whole set's about being fucking in your room and depressed, and people laugh at that now too. I mean, I don't, but it's literally bullshit tasks are fucking the best. Go wash your car. You run out of material, go fucking jogging. Like anything. So
you could draw on anything.
And sometimes it's so simple. Sometimes it's so simple, but you just needed to pass that street sign or hear that conversation at the register at a Trader Joe, like whatever it is, bro. You need it every day because that's how all these other humans are living. So you need to fucking cross paths with them.
And you can relate. Yeah, it almost makes you, when you draw on everyday experiences, it makes you relatable. Because when you say things, people are like, oh, I kind of went through that, as opposed to talking to things that people can't relate. They're looking at you like, well, like when a comedian starts to talk about money, and being rich, you're like, you kind of lost touch with the people, as opposed to talking about everyday things. You're like, oh, I relate. This is hilarious.
That's like why Eddie Murphy is like afraid to come back. Aside from that, he has to answer for saying the word faggot like 7 times in all his specials. But this man has been in the biggest mansion in LA for the last 20 years. What the fuck is he going to talk about? Having to clean his 30-foot pillars in his house? Like, what this fuck?
See, that's one of those things that's across the board. Whether it's even musicians, they spent their whole life inspired to write one song or write one album, and then the second album they haven't had enough life experience in between to write a good second album. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things. Or you go. Marvin Hagler said it best, man. He said it's hard to get punched in the face when you're sleeping in satin sheets and have $1 million in the bank. You know what I mean? And the truth is, it's hard to go out there and eat shit on a stage when you don't have to.
Or have a good reputation already.
Right. Or you're living a life, like you said, like let's say an Eddie Murphy, that generally is not relatable, man. He's living behind the gate, behind another gate, with his own security, on the hill somewhere we don't know about. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, what do I talk about? I mean, I'm sure a guy like him has natural ability. They always say he's the funniest guy in the room and stuff. But shit, I could just imagine. You know, it's cool that it's almost a gift that you're able to draw on everyday experiences, man. That you're able to just look at something.
You said it best with that music reference. Like, it's like writing books. You wrote a fucking book, no?
Yeah.
It's like writing books. That first book, you've been writing it your whole fucking life. So now this second book, you just second guess everything you said because it's like crunch time. Now you're doing it off the cuff and you're just, self-correcting constantly. So you said it best. That first album or that first book, or you've been writing that shit your whole life. And the next one is just now you got to up something you've had 20 some years to work on, 30 some years to work on. Fuck out of
it. Right. So what's it like for you? Picture your career 10 years from now. What's the end game for Phil? What's your career look like in 10 years?
Bro, I think the game's changing so much that I could answer this question, and if I watch this podcast in 10 years, I'm gonna sound stupid. And I wasn't that big dreamer. The comedy was so fucking big for me and I said it to my girl a million times. I'm like, I hope you don't have an appetite for a rich man, because I will give up any job to earn a teacher's salary if I'm doing comedy full time. So as long as I want to use the podcast to just build a following. There are millions of people sitting at home through this entire pandemic. So it was foolish for any stand-up comic to think he's just going to sit back and wait and maybe write. What the fuck are you going to write about? The pandemic? We've all been living the same year. It's all parallel thinking. You're going to cross over his act and he's going to cross over your act. So you really needed a podcast or something to force yourself to write and write and write. I want to build some kind of following from a podcast so that I can fill a small room as long as I go to a big city. If I go to Miami, if I go Denver, if I go New York, San Francisco, Austin, Texas, I want to be able to at least fill a small room and just do this thing I do. So even if I'm opening up for a bigger guy, as long as I'm doing it full time, live.
So you're all about the art, the success, and all that stuff. Thing. If it's attached, it's a plus, it's a cherry on top. But you're all about the art. Wow, I appreciate that, man. That's a dope. I always say, man, like, never detach yourself from the art. Sometimes the business part of it kind of takes over and it starts to like dominate. And I see when that happens, whether it's in a business or whether especially like, let's say a restaurant, the guy that's the chef that started the restaurant. You ever notice how the whole restaurant goes to shit when all of a sudden he stops cooking? And he just kind of wants to retire.
As soon as he comes in with a blazer, it's over.
It's done. Now all of a sudden he's not cooking anymore and the restaurant goes to hell. I feel like the same thing with comedians. It's like the minute they start concentrating on something outside of the art and it's not the center of their world, it changes. And it's cool to hear that you're in this for the art, for the sake of the art, right? Which is awesome, man.
I'll never do comedy I don't like, because it isn't about money. I created a low cost life for myself on purpose. I love to fucking work out. I love to play ball, even if it's just one of my boys, one-on-one. I like to get a workout in. I like to do comedy, which is relatively cheap to free. If anything, going out to eat and drink is going to be the biggest expense I have, because I need excuses because I love to connect with people, but that's really all it is I'm telling you, I've always leased cheap cars. That's my thing. And I'm telling you, they get cheaper and they get uglier as I get older. And I haven't been making less money. I've been hospitality. So I produce events and stuff because I produce events and I want to be close to audio visual and production teams, because that will align with, eventually if I'm doing big rooms. So I've been doing better in that in the events world, and I've made more money, but my costs are dropping because I don't like that wait for the weekend shit. You need to create a life where Mondays are exciting. That's just what it is.
When you do what you love, you don't have to work. That's the truth, man. I want to close it out. Well, close out the 5 questions. Yeah. I want to ask you, so the pandemic, man, it's obviously smacked everybody in the face. Yeah. I'm sure it did a number on comedy, right?
Yeah.
How did you adapt? What was the shift that you made? And when did you see? Okay, and it's a 2-part question, because not only do I want to know how you shifted, right? And I see you did a lot with your podcast, stuff like that. Yep. But I also want to know, what do you see as the future? What do you see as the next step post-pandemic for comedy? What do you think is going to happen then?
I personally think platforms like YouTube are gonna be the forefront of entertainment, because a year like this taught so many people how to mix audio, how to film themselves, how to create a set, and how to make their own content. And people less and less want content that was produced by a studio, produced by a couple of square suits who are like, this might work for this demographic. Yes, so yes. So people want to be a fly in the wall and listen to conversations they'd never otherwise be in the room to hear. So I think it's most of the content that will be watched most. Aside, professional sports will always be the shit. There's some things that won't go away, but as far as comedy goes, you'll have a few guys that make big specials, but the video podcasting game is going to be massive, and the revenue centers are going to be insane, because I've seen guys with maybe just 500 subscribers who get secure a few sponsors, and they can pay their fucking bills. So I think it's just self-produced content is the way. People are now going to be in the Adam Sandler system. You know what I'm saying? If a studio ever wants to pick me up, I'm going to be a nightmare, because I come with a director of photography. I come with a line producer. I come with a fucking guy who knows how to mix audio. I come with a gaffer. It's not – everyone's going to have a team now. Everyone's going to know how to make their own shit, and everyone's going to have that, like, Patrice effect. They're going to want to make it their way. So sure, some people might be driven by money, but I think if another YouTube comes out that's even more free,
user friendly, right?
Because YouTube is still kind of like, YouTube actually, I think, learned over the last like 8 years that children are their number one revenue center. That's why like some kid from Cambodia unboxing gifts is the richest guy in the fucking Eastern Hemisphere. Because they have geared everything to children. So even if you put out content that's maybe too vulgar or maybe has image, it's almost like they'll
demonetize you. Yeah, they demonetize you and they shadow ban you. Yeah. So then all of a sudden you can't find your stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Or if you go against against what popular culture is thinking or saying, or you don't agree with something, they block you out completely, man. So you got to make sure that you stay in line with what's going on there. And like you said, hopefully there are other platforms that develop where people can be even more free to create content. It's true, because if you look at the music model, it used to be record labels, and now it's independent artists doing their own thing.
Right.
They cut out the middleman.
Yeah.
They cut out the middleman, and they're making money, and they're doing their own thing. And it's true. It's like you said. It's like where back in the day, an artist or an actor, so like a Denzel Washington, you would see him once a year, right? When he's about to advertise a movie, there was a little, like a little question mark around who is this guy? Nobody really knew who he was. That was the it. That was the superstar back then. Right. Today's superstar is more like The Rock, where he's like, look at me, I'm in my kitchen. Look at me, I'm in the gym. Look at me, I bought sneakers. Look at me, I'm that. And he's very transparent. At least as transparent as we think he is. With the audience, just trying to show us all. You know what I'm saying? He shows us everything but the cocktail he's using to get that big. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? It's what else? But no, that's awesome, man. What do you call it? I'm excited to see what's going on with you. You know what I'm saying? Like I just because of the fact of that skill that you have to just go off the cuff. I'm telling you, I know I'm like fucking sucking dick right now. My bad, But it's like that little the snippets that I've seen of you, the videos that I've seen of you going off the cuff. That shit is hilarious, man. Maybe it's just me, but I think it's so fun. And it's not a lot of people could do that. You know what I mean? You get somebody in front of the camera and they start ranting, and it's like incoherent. It's a little all over the place. You are, I want to call it strategically all over the place, where you have this seamless bound. I remember you said the funniest shit, man. I was watching a clip of you talk about the new Selena that came out on Netflix. And you were like, I was watching that for 5 minutes, and I was like, just shoot her already. Bro, I was fucking dying.
It was
was hilarious. You know what I'm saying?
It's hard to say that because I know one of the kids
Your volume went down.
In the show. My volume?
Your audio. Let me see, DJ.
Testing. HowAboutYourBoy.com.
You hear me?
Testing. I hear you loud and clear.
Technical difficulty.
Crystal.
Let me see.
Está bien.
Something happened to your audio. Make sure you click on your screen to open your mic up.
Testing. Cam mic, everything looks,
nope.
At least it's telling me I'm good.
No. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for Phil Moya stuff, he's on Grandma Naked Studios podcast. I'm telling you, it's absolutely hilarious. No, the sound went. The sound went. Don't know where
it went. Nothing.
It's all good, bro.
The finger.
We're gonna let's. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Let's cut it short right here, brother. I appreciate you coming through. Thank you, man. I know you got a lot going on, like always. I really appreciate the time. You look like Charlie Chaplin. You look like a mime. Thanks a lot, brother, man. I appreciate you, bro. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, click like, share. This episode was brought to you by my guys over at Fox City Beard. Fox City Beard, organic, all natural beard for your beard. They have beard wash, the beard balm. They have all, you name it. They got it all. It's a fantastic brand. It's not just a beard brand. It's also a lifestyle. It's called foxcitybeard.com. I'll put the link down below. It was also brought to you by, I say this a million times, there's levels to this shit. If you're a coffee drinker, and I'm a coffee drinker, I love my Butelo, I love my Cortadito, but there you go. This is premium Ethiopian coffee from a family farm, okay? It's Buna Brothers, Buna Imports. I'm going to make sure I put the link down below. There's levels to this. I'm a coffee drinker. I love my coffee. And I promise you, I got bags on bags on bags because now I won't put this stuff down. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
You guys check out Phil. He's going to be he drops content weekly.
Thank you, buddy.
On his YouTube channel, Grandma Naked Studios. You could see him. What do you call it? We'll probably definitely link up again. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about. This guy, like I said, he's hilarious. I've said this before. I don't bring people on that I don't find either interesting, hilarious. There has to be something about them in order for me to bring them on. I've already made a commitment to myself that I'm not just going to have people to chat with and talk to that, it's whatever. I like people that are hustling, that are making moves, that are shifting when they need to shift, that are making transitions as the world changes and still hustling. And when you find somebody that has a passion for their craft, you know what I mean? That's all about the art. You can't help but respect it, man. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. With that, I'm going to check you guys out. And we are about to be out.